So thanks guys, thanks to FAR for putting this on and inviting us along. Thanks to Quorum Sense for their years of support and sharing of information. It's you definitely find some industries play well with each other and share information, and they're a great testament to that. So my name's Alistair. I work for Agrimm. We're just up the road, based in Lincoln, and sell a range of plant protection products, all of which involve the active ingredient trichoderma. And thank you to Alistair for introducing the whole day, because honestly, I've never been in a room where the word trichoderma has been bandied around so readily. It's most unsettling, but encouraging. It's good. I can see there's a lot of faces around here that I recognise from meeting here or at their paddocks in the last few years. So I wanted to give a bit of background about us. We've only got 10 or 15 minutes. A bit of what are trichoderma for those who don't really know what they are. Why you might use them, basically. What crop responses are you hoping to achieve? And then a bit of our ongoing research and some field responses we've seen. So basically we've been going about 35 years, started in the late 80s. A couple of medical scientists working on sheep vaccines, moving into the horticultural sector and taking the concept of vaccinating plants. So using a biological active ingredient to set the plant up for success, basically, in the way that a vaccine might do to protect yourself for the long term. We have a long-term relationship which had started when Alistair was at the BPRC with John Hunt and David Gale, and that is ongoing. We still license a strain as one of the ingredients in a range of products, and we produce a range of granules and powders that we sell into all types of horticulture, and in the last few years into agriculture as well. As someone said earlier on, I think the original target is always high-value horticultural crops, but in our own improvement of our manufacturing, we're now able to get enough active ingredient to really get a good bang for your buck into more broad-acre crops, which once we were unable to do. So trichoderma, as everyone's been talking about it, I feel it is a family of soil-borne fungi. If I make a mistake here, I will get corrected. So, but I think there's a lot of valid points I took away from all the presentations. It is important to think about what strains you are using. We see from our the work that is done at the university, they may start when they're looking for a biocontrol agent with 100 strains, and you will get some that are detrimental, some that have zero response, and some that have a positive response. And that's how you whittle out the best performing strains. But what you do find is that some strains perform well in a wide range of situations. So trichoderma, a natural component, they are in all soils, which always lends to the conversation about, well, do I need to apply them then? What we're trying to do in most instances is skew the numbers to the beneficial fungi, to enable, to create a protective sheath around root systems. The how do they work, the competition in the rhizosphere for nutrients, outcompeting other pathogens. We talk about them being able to switch between feeding on cellulose, chitinase. This links to that really. They are quite, they thrive in a range of situations, and they can easily feed off natural sugars and root exudates, but they're able to switch and feed off cell walls and other fungi. There can be mycoparasitic to pythiums and other fungi. The last point here I have up, I think I took out of one of your presentations I've seen you present, but it's a very key reason why people work with trichoderma, and I think it was why the bioprotection picked trichoderma to work with, it was a wide geographical niche and very easy to manipulate and culture. So when we create a product or with an intention of adding a number of spores per hectare or per seed, we can specifically calculate how many spores we are putting into a product and be quite rigorous and compare what the result is if we use 1/10 of the rate or half the rate or twice the rate. So trichoderma, it forms the backbone of all our products. The why, I suppose, is a key part of it. They're able to form these very close root associations. They synergistic in plant roots, in and around roots, and there is a range of plant responses I always think that we should think about when we're incorporating. And I don't immediately say that we will achieve all of them at the same time, but there are a range of responses that we do see. And this may be from seed treatment, it may be from root dipping, it may be from drenching onto existing crops. But that improved emergence, we can see that with old seed, you can improve the germ rate. The persistence tends to be a reduction of probably damping off diseases. The increased root and foliar growth is a fairly consistent response we see in almost all plants. We see it in sterilised media. So it's not just improving the nutrient availability, it's actually stimulating something within the plant to stimulate root and foliar growth. So that's what the vaccination concept is, the taking the plant, really setting it up healthier and more resilient. And what we found, or not what we've found, but the research into trichoderma has unlocked really that they are able to be endophytic within plant roots. And we don't mean endophytic in the nature of an AR37 or something that is passed on between plants, but they penetrate in through the cell walls of the roots, maybe only a couple of cells deep, but they can stimulate a response within the plant that can stay with the plant all the way through to harvest. And that was highlighted in an article only a couple of years ago by a gentleman called Gary Harman, who has been researching trichoderma for about as long as I've been alive, I think. T22 Hartzianum in the States will be his work out of Cornell. But this message really that he's highlighting, that the use of endophytic trichoderma improves a plant's photosynthetic capability, confers a whole range of benefits upon the plant. So I think that has been something that we want to highlight about the best strains having that capability of becoming endophytes. Wanted to really show just the fact that we do have registered products. You know, I flippantly put root and foliar diseases on that last slide. I'm very careful that I don't over-promise and I don't talk about disease on unregistered products, but we do have registered products. And this was a wettable powder that is registered for Pythium, Rhizoctonia, has activity against Phytophthora, cylindrocarp, and you can see in these cell trays which were inoculated with disease, the right-hand one of each one is the one that we're treated with Unite, and we're enabling the seed to germ in diseased media. So the point of the presentation today was seed treatment, which is relatively novel to us. In the time I've been speaking to Simon and Nigel, was coming out of some trials we did in Australia into the cereal sector, where we were using a dry seed dusting to try to increase yields, improve quality of the crop. And as a result of that work, we developed more confidence into using that concept and using a rate as a dry seed treatment into a whole range of crops. And the benefit really of using seed treatment is just because either you can do it on farm, or if we can get it into the stage before, it is seed that is already protected, that is going in the ground, and you will get those benefits without the need for too many extra applications over the top. If you can remove the need for tractor diesel a little bit, then it just helps your profitability, and that seems to be the nub of all good, solid conversations, really, profitability. So, a seed treatment, I say biological, we're using trichoderma. It's very easily integrated into what you're doing, depending on the crop you're doing. We use the dry treatment as a sort of adjusting at 1 to 5 grams per kilo of seed. It works in small doses, but we desire, and we've been moving towards showing that we can put it into commercial seed treaters, and they can provide you a seed that is ready to go, ready to plant, and that can be used into any crop you so desire, really. We've used it from the cereals and the peas, right down through to the kales and things like this. So it's from 4 to 5 kilos a hectare to 100 or 300. So what we feel is that we have a concept and a biological active ingredient that will fit into any crop that is being grown, and by using it over a long period of time, you can get those benefits crop after crop after crop, and you do build up a level of trichoderma in the soils above where the original background inoculation may well have been. So, I know Alison said don't trust pot trials, and I will be very careful of the, but you have to start somewhere. And this was some of our first work we did, I think, was using ryegrass seed, and just, I talked before about the range of symptoms. You may get root and foliar growth, you may get better germination and persistence. Now, we had these pots, and you couldn't immediately see any improvement until you turned all the pots over. And you could just, the untreated seed didn't hold any soil. The treated seed had more complexity and branching of roots, and it gave us the confidence and belief that what we were seeing was real, basically. And you took that to the next level. We've taken this up into more wide-scale areas, but you can just see that the density, with the same seed number, you get far more strike, and it related to 30% increases in the weight of the plants. We did this into barley. We're trying to show that it works as well or better than fungicides. But the reality is, and to bring to another point, you will only access a certain amount of the market if you have a pure green organic approach. So whilst here we did definitely, we saw a 15% increase on Rancona and Poncho, but seed treatments, fungicide seed treatments are an insurance policy, and we're not seeing that in a pot trial. So what we needed to show was that we can fit within a conventional approach as well. So we spent a lot of time doing compatibility. There's glyphosate, second from the left. It's a widespread, I think it's Cystiva on the left, fluoperam, pristine. We've done compatibility work with a whole range of existing chemistry. We show that they don't kill the spores. We show that our tricho will grow in the same space. We're trying to prove, really, that the message is not just organic and green leaning, or it's nozzle head chemical sprays. Biological has to fit into what growers are doing. It should be part of an integrated approach, and as was said earlier, finding the right time to do it. And we believe the early part of the crop, whether it's seed or post-emergence, is the time to get the best bang for your buck. This was just showing, this was doing an experiment for a big seedling propagating company, and showing how using our trichoderma on top of what they were doing, This was band rot, as you can clearly see on the right, which is pretty standard practice in nursery. And then putting a trichoderma on top of the band rot, we just improved the performance. We got more seeds, I think they were lettuce, more seeds coming up. We've done this exercise, more pot trials. I love a pot trial. But at least you can see, we can weigh the plants, we can look at them, we can watch them, we can actually, this was every plant, it wasn't a little sample of them, and on the numbers over there, basically you've got control, then you've got plus fungicide, and that's fungicide plus the trichoderma over the top. So you're significantly increasing the weight of the plant that is coming up. So you're having over response over and above the chemistry. So I suppose what we're showing is that you shouldn't be, we don't want to be fearful of usage. Yes, you want to ensure that you're getting a response, but I've seen presentations where people say, look, you need to have a separate mixing tank for your biologicals and a separate mixing tank for your conventional. And I just don't see that as being the reality. I think if you manage your usage, you give them a good rinse, the residue will be so small in the bottom of a tank that you nothing works if it's in the fridge. Get it out there in the paddock. So this is just a few examples of what we've been doing in the last 2 years. These are all grower-driven trials that are using biologicals in conjunction with chemistry. So they're all fungicides plus trichoderma. So here was increases in plant establishment numbers. This was, it led to a yield increase at the end of the day. This is using an in-furrow application. Fodder B, you can't really, it comes in pelletized, so you're not going to do much extra to it. But in furrow, we were increasing the plant establishment numbers, and in 3 separate paddocks, we increased the yields in all 3. Again, brassica work. I think the line down the middle was like there, and we just had more more plant numbers and larger plants, which led to a big increase in dry matter down the end. So there's a lot of growers around here who've probably heard the word trichostart, and I've talked to plenty of them. The original concept, which we started off with, was basically here, which was an on-farm seed dressing, people using it, mixing seed, putting it in the ground. Highly effective, but pretty hard work when you're mixing a ton of seed, and respect to those who commit to it and invest in the energies of mixing it. Now, there's a move, there are more and more growers who are setting themselves up for liquid application in furrow. I know a few of you already, and Stu, who is going to present a few pictures of his work after me, that is the method he uses. He uses a liquid in-furrow application. And this really is where we see the future, I suppose, being able to actually offer something that you can give to the seed treating company can do in advance of the season, and then you will have a product that is supplied and ready for action, and that could be fitting with any crop that you're planting, basically, whether it's your cover crops or your cereal crops or anything in between. Stu, do you want to show us a few slides from? So when we started doing this, a lot of the discussion was anecdotal. We could show you some nice pictures of some roots. I was incredibly grateful to Stu for following through with some cold hard numbers. So I'll pass you over to Stu, who can tell you a bit more about the trichoderma experience he had. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Alistair.
There you go.
For note, if you don't know me, I'm Stuart Macaulay. I'm a farm manager, managed a farm at Southbridge for the McMillan family, and we do things try and do things a bit differently, I suppose, and try different things. And this was before my liquid injection system. It's now on my drill, but this was done more the traditional powder way first, done in 2019-20. perfect seed bed for wheat establishment. So we do things a bit differently. So I Duchess wheat drilled 8th of August, 125 kilos to the hectare, into what was a 50% grazed overwintered cover crop. I wanted to see if we could get away without, traditional seed treatments as such, and we set aside a couple, they ended up being 72 metre strips down the paddock, which works out at 8 9s, 72 for harvest efficiency in the drill. Just to, it is a reasonable cost of planting the seed treatment. What, if I take out seed treatments, what do I need back in the mix? So I was only started with trichoderma because I'd only just been introduced to Alistair. We put trichoderma at 200 grams per hectare. I didn't want to hand mix it to the seed, that's too much hard work, but I had now a redundant insecticide box on the side of the drill that can blow the trichoderma into the seed stream. But at 200 grams per hectare, that's too small for my metering system to accurately do, and your product runs like water through any type of applicator. So I had to find a carrier product to go with it, and I had some kelp powder from leftover, first mistake, and I used that at 5 kilos a hectare. Alice's product was about, at 200 grams, worked out about $10 a hectare. The kelp powder, after I'd used it and calculated it out, was about $100 a hectare. And I was only really saving, at 125 kilo sowing rate, about $55 in seed treatment. So yeah, kelp powder, it was what I had available, but cost-wise, not applicable, or not practical to do. But it was just a first year trial to see if I'd get tricho to work. So we drilled it, perfect conditions for slugs and everything else. This is slide not going to help you sell the product for the first 6 weeks. We actually found the first 6 weeks, on the untreated side, the root development wasn't quite as good as my traditional seed treatment. So I started digging around and I was trying to figure out what was going on. But our seed treatments that we'd taken out were Raxil, Poncho and Pyridum 30. And it was only after talking to Nigel, my neighbour, who suggested possibly that because that Pyridum 30 is a micronutrient, manganese, zinc and I can't remember the third one. Magnesium. So we were possibly, it wasn't a perfect scientific trial of only just taking out one thing and replacing it with another. It was sort of, I was possibly, for that first 6 or 8 weeks, I was missing something else in the puzzle. But it did improve, and unfortunately I couldn't find the proper photo with the lines down the paddock. But after about 8 to 10 weeks, the trichoderma treated side was visually significantly better in green colour, not necessarily in growth, but there was a definite colour difference. But it took about 10 plus weeks to get to that stage, and this is probably it's second nitrogen application. That residue had dissolved down, and I sort of ended up with a half crop to harvest. And we harvested the trial. We took 5 strips out of each 72, 5 9-metre strips out of each 72 metre tram line. Although that photo was on the wheel marks, we excluded the wheel mark ones on all trials, just to try and sort of keep it half sort of the non-Reno ones. Slugs, I should have said beforehand. Trial, after trying to drill through that residue, you're a slug haven. So yields by default weren't as what I expected, and I didn't quite know what to expect once I got in there with the combine. But a side note, this is not a weigh trial with a weigh wagon. This is only just off my yield monitor, which is equally as rubbish across the whole paddock at measuring yield. But it isn't a weigh, and it's just done as start and stop at the ends, calculate the area, calculate the start stop amount. So it's not a weigh thing. And this is no fancy bar graphs thing. This is just what I wrote down on the combine as I went. And so the trichostart treatment was 8.2 tonne to the hectare, with the standard seed treatment 7.74. So that's where I ended up. and a plus 6%. I was probably looking for, when I do a trial like this, if there's no detrimental effect to doing less, then I run with it. But a plus 6%, I go, well, that's quite interesting. I'll have a go, and we've sort of carried on from there. It's no way scientific. This is just me running up and down with the combine. There's no other than that. It's just what I've had a go at. So yeah, and that's the product that I use.
So we do have time for a few questions, if anybody has one.
Fear.
I find trichoderma rather confusing.
Okay.
One hand you're putting in the ground, it's a fungi, you're missing a fungicide with it. Doesn't make sense.
I hear what you're saying. What I can tell you is that fungicides broadly don't kill fungi. Okay? What they are, they stop fungal growth, and that's why they work for a period of time. Okay? So we will mix our fungal spores in a suspension with chemistry, almost any chemistry that we've ever tried. Mix it, leave it for 2 hours, plate it out, dilute it, do a quality control test. We rarely reduce numbers by more than 20%. So the fungicides, what they do is a very good job of cleaning the space around the seed to allow a seed to come up. But if you're not killing the actual fungal spores, then they're also growing out from the seed in all directions around it, and they will follow the roots, and they'll find the exudates and the sugars that are being transmitted by the plant roots, and they will be there, and they'll still be in existence 2, 3, 4 weeks after, and through the life of the plant if they're going into the roots as well. So it is. I totally understand that it's a challenge to kind of get your head around that you might use a fungicide and a biological fungi, but that's the easiest way I can think to explain it. They don't kill fungi, they just they slow down the growth.
Yeah, I still find that rather confusing. And I think there needs to be a lot more research and independent research around that. I've still got major questions about trichoderma and its wide use. You've got one farmer here using it as a to control fungi on the crop foliage, and then you're putting the same thing in the soil. Was not controlling fungi there? Because there is evidence that some trichoderma does have predatory action against fungi. I presume your one doesn't have predatory action against fungi, is that correct?
Well, no, that's not correct. I mean, as I said to you, they can be mycoparasitic I've got pictures of our spores eating Pythium spores. They can be mycoparasitic. Now, broadly, in a foliar application, so we have registered products for botrytis. They're registered in viticulture, they're registered in covered cropping, okay? So they are about colonising a space. Now, it's a lot easier to comprehend in something like grapevines and in where there is bunch trash, or in tomatoes, where they get into the flowers and they protect that crop as it grows and as it ripens, and that's where you get the botrytis effect. I fully engage that I find it harder to find it. David's work when he did it into cabbages, that was seed production, and they were literally cutting open the cabbage, and then the seed head is coming out. What the tricho was doing there was colonising a space and protecting it from the ingress of other pathogens. Now, I think it's more of a broad bow to draw when you talk about it in a grassy type crop to protect against foliar pathogens. Yeah, I'm not out there saying that we're going to solve rust, 100%. That's why I'm saying to you really that whilst there is a place for a foliar application, and I think David most of the time uses a bit of a mix of brews with the strepto, with the bee slug, and with the tricho. We're a bit more targeted, I'd say, and when we feel we're going to get a response, we're doing work with New Zealand avocado on Colletotricum, post-harvest rots. We do work with fruiting crops. You can really see that a lot of those diseases come in at flowering, and if you can get that space clean, then you can protect the fruit. I think it's more of a challenge to understand foliar diseases in grassy style crops. But we do think that if you have a plant that is set up well, and you can stimulate the root growth, and you can set it up better, then you will have a stronger plant that is able to resist disease. And you see, it's not dissimilar, I suppose, to the way as humans, if you're run down, you succumb to a cold or a flu or whatever. The weaker seed, weaker plants are the ones that fall over. Back to, I can understand the sort of misnomer between using a beneficial fungi and using a fungicide. What I suppose I'm trying to, we're a commercial business. If I purely say that you have to just have bare seed and use trichoderma and you'll get a 30% increase in root growth, who am I selling to? So we have to show that what we do can fit into what people are, the practical reality of life, I suppose. So I suppose that's what's driven us to do that.
Thank you. Alice.